Today what we're going through and doing is we're going to go through and we're going to glue up a section, so we're getting a right angle. We're going to do this glue up or the box glue up in 2 steps so that we end up with 2 right angles that we can then join together. Now by using this technique, you'll see that we can get a perfect right angle coming through, giving us all the more chance for a better glue up in the end. Now remember, if all your pieces are precise and accurate, you should be able to get a great glue up and a great box made. So, from this step, the very first thing we're going to go through is discuss what we need for this step. Number 1 is you need your pieces. Number 2 is you need an eraser. You need a third little glue piece, a packer piece we'll call it. It's going to protect your job when you clamp. You're also going to go through and need some glue. Now today we're using Titebond Original Wood Glue, and the reason we're using this one over Titebond 3 is it's got a slightly shorter working time. And that's actually going to benefit us because we don't need a lot of time to glue this up, and so there's no point having a longer working time. The product is also cheaper than Titebond 3, therefore meaning that it's a more appropriate glue to use. It's not waterproof, but these do not require to be waterproof, so there's no issues there. The other glue we could have used is Titebond 2, which has a slightly shorter working time again, but we didn't need that. So the one we've currently got is approximately 5 to 7 minutes working time with the original wood glue by Titebond. Progressing forward, you're also going to need this right angle, this mitre clamp here, and you're going to need either 2 of these style clamps, which I really love. They're German made, they're a soft style clamp, they're quite glorious to use. Alternatively, you may need 2 of your F-style clamps. Try and get a smaller F-style clamp if you're going to use it, because there's just a lot of weight getting thrown around with these that's not required. Now, progressing through from here, to do this glue up, the very first step you're going to do, before you add the glue or anything else, is you're going to come through and you're going to make sure that your pieces are going to line up correctly. So for me, if you're having a look here, you'll see that I've got 1 with an arrow pointing right to 2 with an arrow pointing right. So you want them to line up like this. You also want to have all your writing either on the inside or the outside, depending on how you've done your rebates. It does matter. So when you're doing this, you set this up, you line up and you go for it. You never have it set up like this, 2 to 1, because we're not counting backwards, we always go forwards. And if you do this, you're going to get this nice continuation of pattern going around the edge. Now, to do this, you're going to start with your Titebond. The first step is to remove any unnecessary pencil lines. So in this case, it's this line right here we don't want. Now, there's a high chance that you're never going to see it, but there's also a chance that you might, if for some reason your joinery is not perfect. So you just want to remove whenever possible. Now, as I mentioned before, in previous videos, I draw on pretty hard so you guys can see, and it's not wanting to come off, and this is why it's so important to draw lightly. We're going to say that that's removed. From there, we're going to come through, we're going to go our Titebond Original, and we're going to run a small bead of glue along the inside there. Now, when I say small bead, I actually mean a small bead. We don't need much glue for this, and otherwise we end up with wasted glue. Another thing you guys are going to want is both dry and wet paper towel. And that's going to help with the cleanup later. So we've got this here. I've got enough glue on there now. As you can see, it's really not much. A little bit sitting in that corner there, and I don't want that sitting there. The reason I don't want it sitting there is because I don't want it to squeeze out later. You can then use that. You can come through and apply it to here, and the aim of this, of pre-applying, is that it can help the wood grain swell a bit and open it up for the glue to really connect, but it's not necessary. It's just if you're a little bit excess sitting there, it can be handy to do. From there, come across and line these up. So you sit them where you want them, like so, and I'm just gonna get rid of the glue on my finger because I don't want it on the rest of the job, with the wet paper towel there. And then you can dry it on the dry paper towel. From here, we'll come across, we're gonna get our mitre clamp. Now for this, I'll try and do it on a bit of an angle for you, but I'd suggest sitting it flat. And the way you're gonna do this is you bring it in, bring both pieces in, and apply some pressure at both ends to try and get them sitting right in the corner. Then have a friend, if you've got one, to do the mitre clamp up. But for me, I'll just come through, spin it down, and then I'll reapply that pressure as we continue. Now it's very important you keep aligning this miter clamp so it's not going to dig into one of your pieces, to make sure you're getting a nice tight hold there. So I'm then going to undo it slightly, add that pressure, and then re-tension that back up. And so we've ended up with something like that. Now it's very important to go through and make sure that your pieces are sitting even. Now for me, mine are slightly out, and that's because this piece here is slightly larger, just slightly, than this piece, and we'll deal with that later. Yeah. Do it up nice and firm. You can loosen off just a smidge, and then we're going to apply some of these clamps. Now this is where this piece comes in, because we want a really tight join. And I think it's more important to get some quality pressure coming this way than it is to get it this way, because there's more glue attaching it this direction. So the reason I've got this blocker or this stacker piece here is because it does protect the timber, but it also comes through and allows this to sit higher than what your timber would normally sit at. So you're still getting that clamping pressure on there, which is very important. So we're going to come here, set that on there, and then bring this back and then tighten that up. And once again, when clamping, having two people is handy. And the reason we're putting these on is because we want to get as much tension on that as possible, but we don't want to over tension. And what you've probably noticed is as I've done that, a little bead of glue's come out, and that's what we want to clean up. We're going to get our paper towel here and just clean that bead up. Now if you've got pencil on the outside, feel free to leave that and we can clean that up later. Get rid of all this excess glue, because glue is much easier to remove now than it is later. Now there are a few parts where it's always super important to remove glue first up, and that's inside these sections here. And this is where I get that wet paper towel, I form it into a bit of an angle, and then I'll sneak it up in that joint, pushing it through, because you want to get rid of any of that glue, because you can't really sand it out later. It's too difficult. It's a pain. So cleaning your glue up as you go is always the best option. Now, let's say for some reason that you can't really get in there. So you could use literally anything. It's generally something small and pointy. I would not use a pencil, because pencils are likely to go through and mark your timber if they break through the paper, which they often do. So for this, I'm going to use an Allen key. We do have some other tools in there which can be used, little scrapers and whatnot. I'm going to get this on here. I'm going to use this as the tension to get in there and really get rid of any of that excess glue. Alrighty, after you've gone through and you've removed all the glue and you're happy with that standard, you're going to leave it for 30 minutes. Which means if you've done it at the beginning of the lesson, you may be able to take it out at the end. Alternatively, if you've done it towards the end of the lesson, just leave it, undo it next lesson. Remember, always ensure to remove any glue, and once you've glued, please come see me and we'll see if I can help you out or if you need any assistance. Other than that, have a great day and congratulations on moving through to the next stage. Also, please do it for both sides. Glue one, glue the other.